moon knife and the hang too. Hebrew the light, some spice, say he ain't you. I'm your Houdini, ask eat him if it ain't true. I set a bait like I'm trying to catch lake food. Pray for patience cause I hate to debate food. The time is coming, you'll see it on today's news. America is now following the slave rules. All the birds up against the white one, take them out like the 8 ball when you play pool. We inside to make a more. With the ice to be a dyke if you want to be gay cool. Babylon, you're wrong. Too many nations to name, you done slain where you came to. Probably want to send me out to somewhere out of space. Move me out, bring me back, saving tunes till they fake doom. So my lineage is chosen. I try to have a harder day than integrity of Joseph. Faithful like Abraham, strong like Samson and meek like Moses. Wise just like Daniel, perfect like Noah and Job. I hope I can walk like Enoch, come back like Elijah, turn off the Zion. While all my lions waiting, awaken the sleeping giant. 400 years in the comatose, the soul's reviving. No more dry bones, alone, hopeless and rotten. It's set in stone, headed home like it's no other. YAH'S breathe blessings and by the quaalude. Creator earth and since they say man look like him, the angels. Modern science, the fire cycle, children of Zion. Watch out, they got to stop, so wait for the coming of Shiloh. Warrior music looping, my YIsraEL inspire movement. 16 inspired kings will rise up like Constantine. Break it down, babbles, travel like Joe and Fine. Brimstone, my Yah Warwick. Proud after rubble like we practice contortion. Aborted wicked owls of Edom and Esau, YAH'S ways to cancerous. Cut out the moon water with pins, cut out the amethyst. Damaging these amateurs, y'all spinning with this whirlwind. Tether y'all's arm, covered by seraphims. How good is it to rob a brethren and give the earth its medicine? Yah is a car, there's none ahead of him. Wisdom of Yah, better than Ruby. Check Proverbs 8. Beauty of Yah is James White, Hebrew Beyonce. Righteous is my mind state. Rhyming till I'm by the gates. Still the fate to those who will not praise the day done passed away. Praises to my Yah, Noah's wrath they couldn't escape. But see like to my Elohim, Yah wills we speak face to face. They calling us the blessed ones, but we waxing battle just to run. But if you move, the rest will come with up text of us, or next will run. What did it is coming, just getting it numb. Watching they tongues flex for fun. They're gonna feel the heat will reflex our guns, leaving them lame and deaf and dumb. The heart is how I test my son. A giant of black till legs to come. An animal beating my chest like one. We leaving their bodies left as though while the wolves to see the elected ones. Don't protect themselves from the wretched ones. See haters, I expected some. Like I thought it affected none. Like. We got them eyes to detect your bombs. Like. We got you scared so we detect the runs. Bitch, you getting chased by a million black folks who've been packed in slums. Who's hungry and for fun, like break your legs, backs and thumbs. So we take them to the maximum. We smashing them. Smacking their wives, taking their spoons, we attacking them. I hear with the light, our flight become second to none, so come. Our people is calm, their niggas and y'all broke it down like both of your ankles is strong.
Our Genesis started in the book of Exodus. Born in America cause Yahweh is correcting us. He commanded us to be holy in Leviticus. Then we multiplied to where you couldn't even number us. But since we refuse his philosophy, he gonna consume us with curses from Deuteronomy. It's all about the quality, never about the quantity. To the last 5 letters from Israelite, you got Yah's elite. 1 from a family and 2 from a city. What make up the remnant who Yahweh with pity? He visits the iniquities to the seeds of them that hated him, showing his mercy to thousands of them that wait for him. My Genesis started with the crucifix. I never knew I was worshiping graven images. No sacrifices of righteousness, only wickedness. Man-made doctrine is all of what religion is. No addition or contradicting what Yah has mentioned. It ain't no need for multiplication or long division. No subtraction or any other type of mathematics. Just trusting Yahweh's word and what he say will happen.
Let's go. It's the delight of my soul, the only thing that controls. This is the sweetest of roll that I ate in this hole. You know it's the Almighty, the one who's always right. You see the light in the sky, you know it's day. And then it's night when the lesser light shine. It's the most sublime, the most profound, the illest sound never heard round this town, around this globe. It be the Torah of Yahweh Elohim. Do you understand the things that I speak in these days of the last? It come past when these people about to fall off the earth like grass with it, like the flower fades. You know how it is these days. People getting played, being told lies of age, but my words they spray, proclaim the most high name. And you know how it is. We ain't playing no games. No, he give me this word, so it beats the fire. And
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is by saying hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous, Yah is holy, and let Yahweh be magnified. Again, let me say shalom to my beautiful brothers and sisters, and thank the Most High, the mighty Yah, for allowing us to come to you, to come before you another day of nothing but the truth. And yes, it is true. All you will get is the truth. For Yah ordained me to tell you the truth. So this is what I will do. Again, let me thank you for tuning in once again of Nothing But the Truth. My name is Mowreh IshiYAH, YIsraEL, of the House of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street. Bring you, again, nothing but the truth. Again, we praise the mighty Yah for allowing us to bring you the truth. But who is this Yah that we speak of? Well, Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Yisrael, who you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king, he's our lawgiver, and he is our savior, and not just of Israel, but the world. Today, we will bring to you another program that we're dealing with of Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years. And you'll read about Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, the 14th verse, where the Creator said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them," speaking of these lights, "be for signs, seasons, and days, and years." And what we've been bringing forth to you is Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years. Now, the vast majority of our people really don't know what Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years are. And then you have the rest of our people who believe that Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years is the moon. It might be the crescent. It might be the full moon. But it's the moon, period. And this is what they will follow. And this is how they number their days, according to the moon. This is how they mark the holy days, according to the moon. And this is how they mark their years, according to the moon. You would think that the Almighty didn't even have other lights, because everything they do is predicated on the moon. But is that the word of Yah? Well, as you've been seeing, no, it is not. The word month don't mean moon, and the word moon don't mean month. This is something that your enemies have taught you and led you to believe. And why? Because they go by the moon. They also go by the moon because the moon don't come in the morning as the month comes. The moon don't come in the morning as the year began. Nor do the moon come in the morning as a day began. All months start in the morning. All days start in the morning. And all years start in the morning. But no moon start in the morning. The moon actually comes in the evening towards the night because it is a light as well as the stars that separate the night from the day. We brought you one of the signs that the Creator gave us, not just a sign, but also a season, also a day and a year. And we brought to your attention that the very first sign that we talked about is the sign of 3. Now, how is this a sign? Well, the Creator said in the book of Exodus 31 that the Sabbath is a sign between us and Him, that He has separated us and sanctified us from all the other people, all the other nations that's on the face of the earth. Therefore, keep the Sabbath, for it is a sign. It is a perpetual covenant, an everlasting covenant between Him and His people, Israel. And we pointed out what this sign was. That sign is 3. Well, how do we know that? Because the Sabbath day came 3 days after the lights was born. The sun, the moon, and the stars. Why is that significant? Why is that important? And why is that the truth? Because everybody that Yah sanctified and separated all had the sign of 3. Levi, who the Creator said is our priest, a messenger to Him. He separated Levi from all the other tribes. And Levi was the third born. Because that's the sign that Yah will use to separate what will be holy unto Him. In the 3rd year, Yah called the 3rd year the year of tithing. And what is tithes? Tithes are holy. They're separated. They belong unto Yah. And he called that year the year of tithing. So we see the Sabbath. The very first Sabbath is on the 3rd day of the very first year, the very first month, the very first season. Levi, the 3rd born. Just like the Sabbath, separated, sanctified. Just like the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, which is at the end of the 3rd year. And all the Creator prophets, such as Moses, who was hidden 3 months. Why? Because he was separated and sanctified. Jonah, because when he was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights. Why? Because he was sanctified and separated. Abraham, who on the 3rd day went to sacrifice his son. Why? Because he was separated and sanctified. And the children of Israel, when Yah came to speak to the children of Israel on Mount Sinai, why was it the 3rd day? In the book of Exodus, the 19th chapter, the 10th verse. Because they were separated and sanctified. Because this is the sign. This is the season. This is the day. And this is the year that Yah will sanctify and separate. Then we brought to your attention the fourth sign. And we started with the third because you need to know what was holy first. And the fourth sign that the Creator gave us was a sign that represented his praise. This is why when Yehudah was born and he was the fourth born, our foremother Leah said, "Now will I praise Yah." Why? Because he was the fourth born. So she called him Yehudah. Why did the Most High say, from the rising of the sun until the going down of the same, Yah's name is to be praised? Because that's when the sun, moon, and stars was made, on the fourth day. Why did the Creator say in the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, the 24th verse, that in the fourth year that the fruit shall be holy, to praise Yah withal? Why? Because you can't even praise Yah unless you are holy. And that is the year. That is the month. That is the day. That is the season. That is the sign that represents praise. Why you think the fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy? Because this is what represents his praise. Why do you think the house of Yah was built in the fourth year? Because it represents his praise. This is the sign. This is the season. This is the day as well as the year of the fourth. And now we're here to bring to you the fifth sign that the Creator gave us, that you might even know its sign, its season, its day, as well as its year. And the reason why this is important, if you think this is just vain, the scriptures say there's a time and a season for everything. Let's read that in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, so you can understand what this means. So you can see that this thing is essential that you might know. And watch what it says. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, the first verse.
To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
See, there's a time. Everything there's a season. I mean, everything has a season. What is a season? A season is a certain particular time. And it's a time to every purpose under heaven. So if you know the time, you would know the purpose. First thing it tells you is a time to be born. And it's a time to die. In other words, once you know the particular time of a birth, if you really know that time, then you will know its purpose. Our mother Leah did. Our mother Raquel did. See, they knew these times. So they also knew the purpose. But do you know the time and do you know the purpose? Because there's a certain time that Yah will bless you. But there's also a certain time he will curse you. There's a certain time where Yah will give you. and increase you. But there's a certain time where Yah will take from you, and you will have nothing. And you can know those times. Just like there's a time where he will give you the land flowing with milk and honey. He will cause you to become a free people, a sanctified people, a holy people unto himself. But make no mistake about it. There is a time where Yah will take your freedom and take your glory and take your name and take your praise and take your honor and destroy you. And you can know that time also. So we're talking about the fifth. And the fifth is very unique. Let me show you how unique it is. In the book of Genesis, the first chapter. Every day is unique because every day is different. And every day has its purpose, and has its season, and has its day, and has its year. But this is the fifth. In the book of Genesis, the first chapter, the 20th verse.
And Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And Elohim created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day.
And the evening and the morning was the fifth day, and Yah did a lot of things. And it seemed that most of the things that Yah did was in the waters. But then he let the creatures come out of the water that they may fly above the earth. But this is the number one thing that you want to see in this particular day. When he told them in the 20th verse, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life. And not only brought the moving creature that has life, it brought forth and the fowl that may fly above the earth. And then the creator also repeated it in the 21st verse, and Elohim created great whales, every living creature that moved was the waters brought forth abundantly after that kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And then the Almighty in the 22nd verse said, and Elohim blessed them. And this is the first time the word bless was even used. Prior to the fifth, even though on the fourth you praise Yah, even though on the third you were sanctified and separated to Yah, even though the second represents his name and the first represents his word, on the fifth, this is when the Almighty first used the word blessed. And once we finish, you're going to understand why. But always remember, there's a time and a season for everything. There's a time to bless, but also there's a time to curse. And what this fifth represents, it represents Yah's increase. Because Yah, this is the time he would desire and determine to increase. This is why he said in the 22nd verse, and he blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters and the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth, because he blessed them. And you cannot multiply in this way unless Yah's blessing fall upon you. And this is what he began to do, beginning and starting in the 5th. And you're going to see how important that is. So, for instance, in the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, turn there. Again, reading the 23rd to the 25th verse.
And when ye shall come into the land, and shall have planted all manner of fruit trees for food, then ye shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you. It shall not be eaten of. But in the 4th year all the fruit thereof shall be holy, to praise Yahweh withal.
In other words, why couldn't you praise Yah in the 4th year? I mean, in the 3rd year. Why you have to wait till the 4th year? Because there's a time and season for everything. It wasn't time to praise Yah. The time to praise Yah was in the 4th and not the 3rd. And watch what it says.
And in the 5th year shall ye eat of the fruit thereof, that it may yield unto you the increase thereof. I am Yahweh your Elohim.
So if you want to increase, then you're going to have to recognize the 5th. Because this one Yah had determined and decided and desired for his increase. If you don't understand what I mean, go to the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter, and let me show you what I mean. In the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter, read the 12th verse.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which Yahweh thy Elohim giveth thee.
Yeah, this is the 5th commandment. And the 5th commandment is associated with long days or long life. And why? If you honor your father and your mother, it says that thy days may be long upon the land which Yah thy Elohim giveth thee. Because the 5th represents Yah's increase. So anytime he's dealing with the 5th, you're going to see the power of Yah's increase. You're going to see something that has to deal with value and money. You're going to see something that has to deal with increase. And this is very important to know, because this is the very first thing that Yah had decided, desired, and determined to bless. And that was the 5th. Still dealing with the 5th, go to the book of Genesis, the 30th chapter. Genesis 30. In the book of Genesis 30, starting at the 17th verse.
And Elohim hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the 5th son.
Okay, he hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the 5th son.
And Leah said, Elohim hath given me my hire.
Elohim has given me my hire.
Because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar.
And she called his name Issachar. In other words, she hired out a night to be with Jacob. And look what the Almighty gave her. He gave her another son. And she called his name Issachar. And she said, Elohim has given me my hire. And some scriptures say, Elohim has given my wages. Because this was her increase for the very thing that she hired out for. And if you still don't understand what an increase is, while we're in the book of Genesis, go to the book of Genesis, the 41st chapter. Genesis 41. And I want you to start reading the 28th verse.
This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he sheweth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt.
7 years of great plenty, and it was.
And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land, and the plenty shall not be known in the land by the reason of the famine following. For it shall be very grievous.
It shall be very grievous. And that famine, all it took was a couple years, and within a couple years, the whole 7 years of plenty was forgotten. You would think if you got 7 years of plenty, you got a 7-year head start. And so you can put away, you can store away, you can, and let me tell you, Pharaoh told the people, 7 years of plenty it shall be. But following 7 years of famine is going to come. You think the people listened? Obviously not, because it was as if they were not prepared. Just like today, we're telling people how to get prepared for the Most High. We know he's coming. We know he's returning. We know what he's returning for. We know what he's returning with. Almighty said he's going to return with his anger, with his fierce anger. He said he was going to return with his whirlwind. Don't you see all these hurricanes forming in the oceans? Right now, I've seen 3 hurricanes just forming in the ocean. We got many states right now on alert. And we got one state already reeling from destruction. That's Texas. But people don't forgot about Texas, because what's coming down the pike now supposed to be worse than what hit Texas. And they ain't even thinking about what's in the ocean that's coming after that. So we see all this destruction, but what is the preparation? How can you prepare for Yah unless you do what Yah himself say do? Did Yah tell you to store bread and water? Did Yah tell you to stack your bank accounts? Did Yah tell you to get a cupboard full of guns and rifles and bullets? Is that what Yah is telling you? No, that's what some survivalists telling you who prepare for man. What a bullet gonna do for Yah? What a bazooka gonna do to Yah? You think some bread and some water? You see what Yah doing to these houses and to these cars and to these buildings? You think you gonna some bread and water and some guns and some survival kits is going to protect you against the Most High? We got to think. Yah told us exactly what to do. And let me tell you what he said. Seek humility, which our people don't want to do, and seek righteousness, that you might be hid in the day of Yah's anger. And nobody want to seek humility. We went around the country all over to Israel letting them know, look here, let's come together and let us seek Yah together. And they did not. The mass majority did not. Now they're talking about seeking Yah again. And I pray it's not like our people in the days of old, when our people searched out the land, they came back with a bad report. And many of them end up dying. But before they died, and they didn't trust Yah the first time, so the second time, they were told not to go. But they went anyway. And they was consumed. Because there's a time and season for everything. And we got to know the times. But continue reading.
And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over all the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years.
And this is what Joseph did. He took a 5th part. Because what is the 5th part? And what is a 5th? A 5th is Yah's increase. This is the first thing he blessed in the book of Genesis. This is his increase. Look at Genesis 47. In the book of Genesis 47, still speaking of the 5th sign, the 5th season, the 5th day, or the 5th year. In the book of Genesis 47. Starting at the 23rd verse.
Then Joseph said unto the people, Behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the 5th part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be for your own, for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food for your little ones.
Yeah, in other words, a 5th part, 1/5 should go to Pharaoh. And then the rest, 4 parts, shall go to Pharaoh. And to me, that's a... Yeah, 5th part to Pharaoh and 4 parts you keep yourself. To me, that's fair. That is fair. Who can argue with that? Well, they didn't. They was happy. And here it is. The Almighty said, 9 parts go to you and just give me the 10th, and people complain. Now, how do that make sense? And watch what the people say. Continue reading.
And they said, Thou hast saved our lives.
Thou hast saved our lives.
Let us find grace in the sight of my master, and we will be Pharaoh's servants.
In other words, this was beautiful in their sight. They felt like, man, you saved our lives. We give 4 parts, and we just give Pharaoh a 5th. But here it is, Yah give you 9 parts, and he just want a 10th. And you complain that you don't even believe in that. This is why these things must be taught. Continue reading.
And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt unto this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priest only, which became not Pharaoh's.
Which became not Pharaoh's. Because now we're talking about a 5th. This is the sign of the 5th. It represents Yah's increase. Whether it's the 5th day, the 5th year, the 5th month, or the 5th born, or the 5th season, or the 5th sign. And once you know what that is, and you really understand what that is, you'll know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it has nothing to do with no crescent. It has nothing to do with no 5th, no full moon. It has nothing to do with no moon period. This is Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years. And how do you determine that? By the lights. And this is the 5th light. Watch the law in the book of Leviticus, the 27th chapter. In the book of Leviticus, the 27th chapter, starting at the very first verse.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When a man shall make a singular vow, the person shall be for Yahweh by thy estimation. And thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver, after the shekel of the sanctuary.
Yeah, 20 to 60 is 50 shekels. Yes.
And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels.
30 shekels from 20 to 60 of the female.
And if it be from 5 years old even unto 20 years old.
Why 5? Because that's when Yah determined that now it's time you got to have an increase for this 5-year-old. Not 13 as the Jewish people do. Well, how old do they say? 13. Yeah, 13 years of age. No wonder they got 13 months. 13 years of age, they try to make a little boy a man. A little boy ain't no man at no 13. You don't even see that nowhere in scriptures. What they call it, a bar mitzvah? That's some Yiddish stuff. That's not scripture. And watch what it says.
And if it be from 5 years old, even unto 20 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels.
Yes. Go ahead.
And if it be from a month old, even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 5 shekels of silver. And for the female, thy estimation shall be 3 shekels of silver.
Yeah, because all this was estimated. And The fifth is the increase. It is increase. Watch what this says. In this same chapter of Leviticus, the 27th chapter, and start at the 30th verse.
And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is Yahweh's. It is holy unto Yah.
It's holy unto Yah. It belongs to Yah. A tithe is a tenth. Go ahead.
And if a man at all will redeem aught of his
In
tithes,
other words, if he take at all any of his tithes back, in other words, he borrow his tithes. Whatever he borrow, go ahead.
he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof.
He shall add thereto the fifth part. And what is a fifth part? A fifth part is 20%. It's 20%. And this is what he had to add back. If you didn't know what a fifth was. Because this is Yah's increase. In other words, Yah just wanted a tenth. But if you're going to borrow, now I want double. And why? Because this belonged to the Levite, the fatherless, the widow, as well as the stranger. So now you got to give me a fifth part, which is 20%. Because this is Yah's increase. But this is why this is so important to you and I. Because there's a time and season for everything. I just want you to see a couple things, couple more things, then we're going to get right into how this affects us in real time. In the book of 1 Kings, the 20th chapter, turn there. Just want to show you a couple more things. In the book of 1 Kings 20, and I want you to start reading at the 35th verse.
And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the word of Yahweh,
Yeah,
smite.
He came, a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor. In other words, this is a prophet. And of course, our people don't respect prophets. But this prophet came in the word of Yah. And watch what he said in the word of Yah.
Smite me, I pray thee.
Smite me, I pray thee.
And the man refused to smite
And the
him.
man refused to smite him. And he came in the word of Yah. Go ahead.
Then he said unto him, because thou hast not obeyed the voice of Yah.
Because thou hast not obeyed the voice of Yah. And this is what our people do today. Because it's coming from man, and they don't regard man, not realizing the Almighty said he will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants, the prophets. And then he will send you a man that speak in his name the word of Yah, and you won't regard it. And why? Because you don't know the word of Yah. So you won't obey the man's voice. Well, this man didn't either. And he knew this was a prophet. And watch what it says.
Then he said unto him, because thou hast not obeyed the voice of Yahweh, behold, as soon as thou art departed from me, a lion shall slay thee. And as soon as he was departed from him, a lion found him and slew him.
Yeah, in other words, since he disobeyed the word of Yah, the voice of Yah that the man of Elohim spoke, he was killed. And all the prophets said to smite me. He didn't say kill me. And watch the 37th verse.
Then he found another man and said, smite me, I pray thee. And the man smote him, so that in smiting he wounded him. So the prophet departed and waited for the king by the way, and disguised himself with ashes upon his face.
Now let me show you why this is real important, and why I'm showing you this scripture. In the book of 1 Kings, the 13th chapter, 2 Kings, I apologize, 2 Kings, the 13th chapter. Show you why this is important and why we even discussing this right now. Start reading. Let's start reading at the, I just want you to see this. Let's start reading at the 18th verse.
And he said, take the arrows. And he took them. And he said unto the king of Israel, smite upon the ground.
Now he gave the king of Israel some arrows and told him to smite upon the ground.
And he smote thrice and stayed.
And he smote 3 times, thrice, and stayed. And watch what the prophet do.
And the man of Elohim
and
was
the
wroth.
man of Elohim was wroth with him.
And said, thou should have smited 5 or 6 times. Then hast thou smitten Syria till thou hast consumed it. Whereas now thou shalt smite Syria but thrice.
In other words, if you would have smitten 5 or 6 times, you would have destroyed Syria. But since you only did it 3 times, you'll wound them, but you ain't going to destroy them. And why? Because most of the righteous, all the righteous, they knew what the 5th represented. They knew that it represented Yah's increase. And if you wanted Yah increase, this is what you would do. You would go to the 5th. That's why if you want to be complete, you go to the 7th. This is how important the 5th was. It represented Yah's increase. See, after you praise Yah on the 4th, now you want to continue on to receive. You want to eat that it might yield its increase. You don't want to just stop at 4. Not if you want to receive your blessing. And one more scripture in Genesis 18. Genesis 18. And what are we talking about? What are we discussing? We're discussing Yah's signs, seasons, days, and years. And this is the sign of the 5th, the season of the 5th, the day of the 5th, the year of the 5th. In the book of Genesis 18, we're going to start reading at the 23rd verse.
And Abraham drew near and said, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure, there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place of the 5th for the 50 righteous? that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?
Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Because it's just something that's not right about this thing. That you will slay the righteous with the wicked, let alone the righteous for the wicked, as many of our people are teaching that Yah will take a righteous man and kill him for a bunch of wicked people. And you got Israelites teaching that, y'all know Christians teaching it, but we got Israelites teaching that the Almighty will actually kill the righteous. In other words, a man that ain't did nothing for the sins of the wicked. This make no kind of sense. And of course, this is what Abraham was saying. But watch further what he says.
And Yahweh said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto Yahweh, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure, there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find 45, I will not destroy it.
In other words, he said, what if it just lacked 5? Because Abraham knew what 5 represented. That represented Yah's increase. So he said, what if it lacked 5? Then will you destroy it? And then he kept going down by 5 and got all the way down to 10. Because this is Yah's increase. And just imagine this, because this is what you really need to know. See, on the 4th, that was when the sun, moon, and stars was born. That was the day of the sun, the moon, and the stars. The 4th. And since it was, this became the very first month. Because month just represents a certain number of days. And that number is 30. It don't mean sun. It don't mean moon. It don't mean stars. It's just a certain number of days. That's why all through the scriptures, you're only going to find 30 for a month. These other numbers that you're hearing about are not in the scriptures. And the day of that new month was the 4th. But the first day of the new month was the 5th. Because that's the first day that Yah had blessed. Why do you think in the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, turn there? Exodus 12th chapter, this is what it says in the very first verse.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be the beginning of months to you. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
This is going to be the beginning of months. Now, what month began before the month that began on the 4th? There is none that began before that. So the 4th, when the Almighty made the first sun, moon, and stars, it had to begin there because that is the first month. That is the beginning of the months. That is the day of the month. And the very next day is the first day of that month. Now watch this. If what I'm telling you is the truth, and I know I'm telling you the truth, this is the beginning of the month. Watch what happens. Continue reading. And just keep your mind on the fact that the beginning of all months is on the 4th day of the week. And watch this and watch what happens. Continue reading.
Speak ye unto all the children of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Now just think about that. Now on the 10th day, because it's giving you various instructions. Well, on the 10th day of this first month, I want you to take a lamb out. But when is that 10th day? Well, if the beginning of the month starts on the 4th, 7 days from the 4th, you're going to get right back to the 4th. And 3 days after the 4th, which will be 10 days, is on the Sabbath. So when our people took this lamb out on the 10th, it was the Sabbath day. Well, that makes sense because the 10th is the order of 3. And what do 3 represent? Something that Yah will separate as holy. And what is he seperating? The Passover lamb. The sacrifice that we will sacrifice to him. The very first sacrifice that we will sacrifice unto him. Now we just set it aside on the 10th, which was the Sabbath day. And the Sabbath is holy and separated. The lamb is holy and separated. And the 10th is holy and separated. Now watch what happens after that. Continue reading.
And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to the eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep and from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of YIsraEL shall kill it in the evening.
Now, 4 days later, you done set it outside on the 10th, but then you take it out and you kill it on the 14th day of the month. So you on the Sabbath day, because you took it out on the Sabbath day, because that was the 10th. That's 10 days after the very first new month, the beginning of all months. 4 days after the 10th is the 4th day. If the 10th is on the Sabbath day, all you got is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, which is the 14th day of the very first month, which is the 4th day. That's when the first Passover was. That's when they killed the Passover at evening, the 14th day of the very first month. But why is that important? Because watch when they leave Egypt. According to the scriptures in the book of Numbers 33, we know the 14th is on the 4th day, 14 days after the very first month, the very first sun, moon, and stars, which all happened on the 4th day. Watch what it says in the book of Numbers 33. So you'll know when our people left Egypt. In the book of Numbers 33, in the 3rd verse.
And they departed from Ramesses in the first month.
In the first month.
On the 15th day of the month.
On the 15th day of
the first month. On the morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians.
So if the Passover was on the 14th, which is the 4th day of the very first month, And they left tomorrow after the Passover. Well, the 15th of that first month had to be on the 5th day. And why is that important? Watch what it says right after that. The morrow after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians. In other words, all our armies went out. Because the 5th represents Yah's increase. And they watched our whole family, our whole nation, our whole armies go out on the 5th. And why the 5th? Because this is the first thing that Yahweh blessed. And the first thing he blessed, it was called his increase. And when did they leave Egypt? On the 5th. Yes, it was the 15th day of the first month, but it was the 5th day of the week. Why? Because this was Yah's increase. So not only it is the first day after the very first sun, moon, and stars that were made and created, it is the first day of the month, of the first year, of the first month, of the first season. And it's the first thing that Yah would even bless on the 5th. And not only that, it is the first day that our people walked out of Egypt a free people. And that day was so important that this is what the Creator said about that day in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter. The 3rd verse.
Thou shalt eat no leavened bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, and thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life.
All the days of thy life. And I may add, look what else the Creator said about this day. In the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, the 40th verse.
Exodus 12, verse 40. And it came to pass, now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years. And it came to pass, at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass. Even the
selfsame day it came to pass.
That all the host of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt.
Yeah, everybody went out, even 430 years, even that selfsame day. And what was it? It was the 15th day. It was the 5th day of the week. And watch the 42nd verse.
It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh, for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations.
And this was the 5th. Yah's increase. Of course, our people don't remember that night at all. Because they don't even celebrate that night. They don't even observe that night. They keep that and the Passover all together mixed up. Well, that happened on 2 different nights altogether. The Passover happened on one night, and they was in a house, and the children of Israel left another night walking through the Red Sea. 2 different nights altogether. But we here trying to let you know how important the 5th is, because it represents Yah's increase. And this increase is Yah's sign, season, day, and year. Furthermore, not only it represents the first day of the year in the book of Genesis, the 1st chapter, it represents the first day that our people was freed from Egypt, but also, and then not only that, it represents the first year that our people were able to eat the fruit of the land that flowed with milk and honey. But it also represents the first year that our people even went into Egypt. As we were bringing to you yesterday, our people walked into Egypt the 4th year. And so when it came to the 5th year, this was the first year that marked our stay in Egypt. And 430 years later, the same time, in the 5th, but the 5th day, we walked out of Egypt. Because this what Yah would do in the 5th. Now, there's a lot of good things that he did in the 5th. First thing, he blessed. First day of the year. First day we got our freedom out of Egypt. All great things, beautiful things, because it represents his increase. But make no mistake about it. There's a time to bless, but there's also a time to curse. And let me show you what Yah not only would do, but did do. And let me show you when he did it. Go to the book of 1 Kings, the 14th chapter. Because once you begin to learn these times, then you'll begin to see, okay, since Yah says such and such and such, this only could mean that since he said this time, it's got to be for this purpose. And then once you read the purpose, then you will automatically know the time. In the book of 1 Kings, the 14th chapter, start reading at the 21st verse.
And Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, reigned in Yehudah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh did choose out of all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonitess. And Yehudah did evil in the sight of Yahweh, and they provoked him to jealousy with their sins which they had committed, above all that their fathers had done. For they also built them high places and images, and groves on every high hill and under every green tree. And there were also Sodomites in the land, And they did according to all the abominations of the nations which Yahweh cast out before the children of
They
Israel.
were sodomites. I thought all the sodomites was destroyed. But there were sodomites, and no, they wasn't. What you think came from Lot? There were sodomites. There were Ammonites. And they just did unspeakable evils. And watch the 25th verse. Continue reading.
And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem.
Why the 5th year? Why did he come up in the 5th year? And why was that mentioned? And look what happened in his 5th year.
And he took away the treasures of the house of Yah.
He took away the treasures of the house of Yah.
And the treasures of the king's house.
And the treasures of the king's house.
He even took away all, and he took away all the shields of gold
All
which
the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Go ahead.
And King Rehoboam made in their stead brazen shields, and committed them unto the hands of the chief of the guard, which kept the door of the king's house. And it was so, when the king went into the house of Yahweh, that the guard bare them, and brought them back into the guard chamber.
In other words, all their riches, all their treasures, the king of Egypt took. And why? And why in the 5th year? First of all, because they did all this evil. But the same year that Yah will command us, that Yah will increase you, to bless you. Because this is the first thing he blessed, the 5th. But like I told you, there's a time to bless and there's a time to curse. And this is the time. So just like y'all blessed in the 5th, and the first thing he blessed was the 5th, now you can see what Yah would do if you will forsake him, where you will receive and get multiplied treasures and multiplied births. Yah would allow that increase to go to someone else. Also in the book of 2 Kings, the 25th chapter. In the book of 2 Kings, the 25th chapter, I want you to start reading at the 8th verse.
And in the 5th month, on the seventh day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
And we're going to go over all these various times because they're real important. But now we emphasize in the 5th month. Now, you're not going to learn this from anybody else. You're not going to learn these times from no one else because they don't even know these times. All this is irrelevant to them. But watch what it says, what happened in this 5th month.
In the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem.
Why Jerusalem? Because they know what happened to Jerusalem. They know what happens to the king in the 5th. The 5th, that's when they get their increase. But watch what happens.
And he burnt the house of Yahweh.
Yeah, instead of the house of Yah flourishing in the 5th month, he burnt the house of Yah.
And the king's house.
And the king's house.
And all the houses of Jerusalem.
And all the houses of Jerusalem.
And every great man's house burnt he with fire.
And every great man's house he burnt with fire.
And all the army of the Chaldees that were with the captain of the guard break down the walls of Jerusalem round about.
In other words, they broke all the walls down. Go ahead.
Now the rest of the people that were left in the city, and the fugitives that fell away to the king of Babylon, with the remnant of the multitude, did Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carry away.
In other words, he carried away for captives. Go ahead.
But the captain of the guard left of the poor of the land to be vine dressers and husbandmen.
Yeah. In other words, this is what they did in the 5th month. And just read a little bit more so they can understand what happened in this 5th month. Go ahead.
And the pillars of brass that were in the house of Yahweh, and the bases and the brazen sea that was in the house of Yahweh, did the Chaldees break in pieces, and carried the brass of them to Babylon. And the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the spoons and the vessels of brass wherewith they ministered took they away. And the fire pans and the bowls and such things that were of gold, in gold, and of silver in silver, the captain of the guard took away.
And they totally pillaged the children of Israel. And when? The 5th month. And why the 5th? Because it represents Yah's increase. And this is what Yah will do in the 5th. Go to the book of Jeremiah, the 1st chapter. Because our people trying to figure out what time they're in. They trying to figure out the time of deliverance. There's a time and season for everything. If you know the time of our deliverance, then you would know also the time that we are taken captive. If you know the time that we are blessed, then you would know the time that we are cursed. If you know the time to be born, you also would know the time of death. You say, well, how are you going to know the time of death? Only Yah know when a man is going to die. Well, you don't know no times. Who told you when you was going to be born? The only one that know any time is Yah. And Yah said he will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants, the prophets. That's how you will know. That's the only way you will know. It's by the word of Yah. And look what the word of Yah let us know in Jeremiah, the 1st chapter, 1st verse.
The words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, the priests that were in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of Yahweh came in the days of Josiah, king of Ammon, son of Ammon, king of Yehudah, in the 13th year of his reign. It came also in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Yehudah, unto the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Yehudah, unto the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 5th month.
Why the 5th month? Why keep looking like every time our people became captive, it was in the 5th month or the 5th year? Well, because that's the same time they became free, in the 5th day. Little do people know, in the 40th year, when our people was in the wilderness for 40 years, that was the 5th year. And you know what happened right after that? They became a free people. Because the 5th represents Yah's increase. This is what I'm continuing to show you and let you know. Look in the book of Jeremiah, the 28th chapter. No wonder our people don't know the time of our deliverance. And let me share a secret with you all. If you ever studied and knew the records of our enemies, let me tell you when they said our people came over here as slaves. The month that they said our people came over here as slaves is in the month of August. Now, why is that significant? All I've been showing you is about the 5th. Well, according to the Hebrew calendar, you know when August is?
Seconds.
The 5th month. August is the Hebrew 5th month. And this is when our enemy said we came over here as slaves. And I may add, they said we came over here August the 20th. And do you know what 20 is? 20 is a 5th part, 1/5. That's what 20 is.
60 seconds.
Now do you see? Now do you hear? Now do you understand? That I'm telling you the truth? In the book of Jeremiah 28, at the very first verse, what do it say?
And it came to pass the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Yehudah, in the 4th year and in the 5th month, that Hananiah, the son of Azur, the prophet, which was of Gibeon, spake unto me in the house of Yahweh, in the presence of the priest and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yisrael, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years will I bring again into this place all the vessels of Yah's house that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, took away from this place and carried them to Babylon.
Yeah, and why in the 5th month was this prophesied? And why in the 4th year? Because the Almighty let them know that they're going to return. And he's letting them know when they're going to return. But little do people know that they were captives at this time. They were in captivity. They were also in captivity in the book of Ezekiel, the 1st chapter. Turn there. We read all these various stories, but we don't understand the time. Watch what it says. The very first verse.
Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month of the 5th, in the 5th day of the month.
This is the 4th month, in the 5th day of this 4th month.
As I was among the captives by the river Kibar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of Elohim. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity.
This was the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity. And who is Jehoiakim? Jehoiakim was one of the kings of Israel. But it had to give you time. It had to give you Yah sign, Yah season, Yah day, and Yah years, so you can understand the purpose in which the word of Yah came to them for. And the 5th represents Yah's increase. Whether that increase is to other people or whether that increase is to us. But make no mistake about it, there will be an increase. Because that's Yah's time, that's his sign, that's his season, that's his day, and that is his year. And until tomorrow, Yah love you, and so do I. Shalom.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trusting you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. Put shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down impatient as a child all the while I'm waiting.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.